Check. 1, 2.
The D.
Brief.
This is the D Brief.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the D
Brief.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief for Wednesday, February 13th, 2019. This is your podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. I am your co-host. My name, Seth Ressler.
So dramatic. And I am Becky Scarcello.
I am the new guy in town.
And I'm the native.
All right, here's what we've got in store for you on today's episode. Mark Ridley, the owner of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak, is celebrating a huge anniversary this year. He has had that comedy club in some form or another for 40 years.
That's quite an achievement.
It is unheard of in the comedy industry. So I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to him, and you're going to hear a little bit of that conversation.
I'm going to tell you about CBD oil, now that it's legal, making its way into food and drink around town.
CBD? I thought it was me.
Similar. I'll tell you later.
Those cocktails are mentally hip-hop with it smoothed down on the R&B tip.
Oh
with
my
pop
gosh, this again?
All right, there's 3 plays opening in town. I will tell you about those as well.
And don't forget to tune in this week on Friday. We're moving our Thursday episodes to Friday. Former WDIV news anchor and just a beloved Detroiter, Carmen Harlan. She'll be in to talk about her history on TV and also her new clothing line.
All right, we're going to meet our guest co-host in just a moment.
This is the D Brief.
Detroit.
Before we get to that, we have launched something new. We want you to know about it. It is called Michigan Podcast Productions. And here's where this comes from. We have done over 100 episodes of this show. We've been doing it for over a year. I've been podcasting for like 8 years at this point. I can't even count.
Before I knew what a podcast was.
It's been a while. It's been a while. But what's happened every time we've had a guest in here, somebody from the Detroit arts and entertainment scene, is that they have always said, you know, we've been thinking about doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm. But I don't want to get all into all the particulars. I just want to provide content.
How do you submit it to iTunes and do this and do that? And where do you get the thing? And what microphone and blah, blah, blah. So we said, fine, here's what we're going to do. We will do all of that work for you.
Everything. We
will help you launch the podcast. All you have to do is worry about the show, right? And we'll take care of the rest. And so that's what Michigan Podcast Productions is all about. If you've been thinking about launching a podcast and you want to finally pull the trigger, please go to our website. It is MichiganPodcastProductions.com.
We're here to help. You know, we can help you with concept, framing the show, production elements, editing, even marketing it, which is a challenge.
We'll show you how to do it all. So go check it out, MichiganPodcastProductions.com.
This is the D
Brief.
All right, let's meet our guest host for the show. He's coming back for a second day. This is day number 2. This is the man behind the website, nickdrinks.com. He also produced the Golden Jigger Awards. Detroit's first beverage awards show was back in December. He is also the Detroit beverage director at Thrillist. You can find his work on the Travel Channel, Our Detroit, the Food Network, and he's got the Herd podcast as well that he does with a couple of other guys. It's absolutely fantastic if you're into mixology and cocktails. Welcome back to the show, Nick Britsky.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's good to see you again.
Yeah,
that was great. I was sleeping in the office. It was a long night, but I made it through.
Yes, that's great. And I know that your podcast has been getting close to 100 episodes too.
Yes.
So we're kind of like feeling some synergy with the 100.
We're in the middle 90s right now. We're trying to book ourselves a big talent. So we have a bunch of leads out there.
Okay.
What date I might be available?
Somewhere in March. You know, we skipped a couple episodes because of snow, so we bought ourselves some time.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. I listened to one of your episodes recently with Cliff Skywalker.
Yes.
I mean, my mouth was watering. So like Seth said on the Herd podcast, you talk about drinks and mixology, but also food and hospitality.
Yep.
And Cliff was talking about Detroit pizza. And I'm telling you, I was like, I need that right now, the way he was describing the crust and everything.
So he is InstaChef, and he has this amazing following on Instagram, and Thrillist actually picked up his show. So he did one season where he went and visited all sorts of great people. He brings in talent, a lot of them hip-hop talent, to kind of go around and visit these great locations. And he came back to Detroit to do a Detroit episode. So he got to visit some of his hot spots, but the guy also makes pizza. Cliff's Pizza, he makes basically out of his home. And it's incredible. It is the best Detroit-style pizza. It almost tastes a little bit like Buddy's. Kind of the crust has that nice crumb and that nice crunch to it. But it's definitely Detroit, and it's definitely delicious.
You could tell you guys were enjoying it for real.
He brought 4 pizzas. They were pretty close to hot, and he drove them all the way from downtown. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to ask about another thing that you're doing over there at Nick Drinks. Game of Thrones. I'm a big fan.
Yes.
And you've got this thing going on. Explain what it is that you're
I'm
doing.
looking at this beautiful bottle of Game of Thrones limited edition single scotch whiskey. What's going on?
So Diageo, which is the parent company of a number of different brands, released 9 different scotches, whiskeys. They did it late last year. It was pretty easy to find White Walker, which was their Johnny Walker variant, and I think you can still find that today. But the other 8, which are kind of in these nice kind of cardboard tubes, were really tricky. I managed to call in a ton of favors, and I got all 9 of them. So we are going to do a tasting video for each different one. We're going to start we're going to start February 25th, and we're going to go every week on a Monday. And that final one, which I have right here, which is the Night's Watch, we're going to taste that the Monday before the premiere of the episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
We have a little spin on that, too. We're actually going to bring in a comedy writer. So PJ Jacokes, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's at Go Comedy.
Yeah.
And we commissioned him to write these 9 different little shorts for us. So whoever I'm tasting the whiskey with, they're going to be acting in a little sketch with me that's based on the whiskey.
Okay, cool. All right.
It's like high school talent show meets college talent show.
I love it. That's right up Seth's alley.
That is. Well, and
Game of Thrones.
I like the whiskey. I'd like to try. I'm curious what the other names for the other whiskeys are. Do
I know.
You know
So
some of the
this
others?
is...
So it's all the houses.
Oh,
So if
that
you look
makes
on the
sense.
back, you can see all the different houses. And what's funny is I'm looking at this label.
Oh.
It actually has the nutritional information.
Right.
It does.
Jeez.
Servings per container, 17. All right.
Right.
Which is big pours.
I
Those
was
are
going to say,
big
this
pours.
is a big bottle.
So there's
Yeah.
also one for Slytherin and one for Baggins and one for.
Tully, Stark.
I love Game of Thrones. I really like
I
it.
know.
No, I really do.
He pretends he likes all kinds of stuff.
I
to
really.
listen
It's like
to
The
him.
Hobbit, but with sex.
What's not
Lots
to
of
love?
nudity, yeah, right?
Yeah. This is super cool, though.
Let's talk about something else that you were involved in, which was
Without sex, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
We don't need to get into
you
it.
tell me. The world's largest whiskey highball.
Have you ever tried to do a Guinness World Record?
No.
Not personally, but I've had friends who have.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So
it's a big time.
It's actually tied to Guinness, the beer,
Yes.
which I had no idea. So when you try to do an alcohol one, they're just like, well, you're competition. So that added
Right.
a whole nother layer to this. So this is technically not official because we couldn't pony up the $10,000 they wanted. But we made sure that it was, above board. So I think the final size was 63 gallons. We had a custom fabricated glass that was 6 feet tall. And we got Jim Beam Black, we got Faygo ginger beer, and then ice. And basically we made the world's largest whiskey highball. And we passed it by miles to hopefully insulate us a little bit.
Right. For
yeah.
up and comers.
And we did this as part of the whiskey experience, which was at the Eastern Market last year.
Yeah. And that's coming up again, I believe.
So they're going to do an off year this year. They're actually going to do a golf outing just because there's so many whiskey events. They're going to take a breather and then they're going to come
it's
back.
a separate.
They're
okay.
still drinking last year's highball whiskey.
I know.
It takes a while to finish.
I was about to ask, did that all get served, or what happened to it?
Yes.
Did you jump in it like a polar plunge and just?
We did
start-
drink out of it towards the end of the night.
You did?
Yeah, directly from the spigot.
Nice.
After everyone was health legally served, then we drank out of the spigot.
Okay. Yeah, it's like drinking out of the garden hose. Okay.
All right. Well, Nick, we're glad you're back for a second day. Hang out with us, and we're gonna have a good time.
Great.
The Brave.
Becky, let's talk about food and drink. What's happening in the area?
Sure. So, of course, the big news last week was the Free Press Top 10 restaurants were announced, as well as the Restaurant of the Year Classic and the Restaurant of the Year, which is the top honor. So, in order from 10 to 1 of the Free Press Top 10 restaurants, Lenoria Bistro. That's right next to El Barzone, same owners. Fort Street Galley, downtown. That's the whole food hall concept. Hazel Ravines in downtown, which is the place in Birmingham with the long name that are named for Birmingham neighborhoods. Norma G's, the Caribbean place on the east side on Jefferson. Sora, which is in West Bloomfield. It's a Chinese-Korean flavor restaurant. San Morello, there at the Shinola Hotel. Folk, which is the real fresh farm to table, all day breakfast and brunch place. She-Wolf, of course, the classic Roman Italian. Marrow, there in West Village. And Albina, the 8-seat tasting restaurant.
All right, watch me get embarrassed here, Nick. How many of these have you eaten at?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 of the 10.
7.
Oh,
Just by a nose. Yeah.
I'm still new to Detroit.
I mean, this is a good place to start, though.
yeah, 3.5 years. These were just in the last year.
I have my to-do list. I don't get the same budget to eat out that Mark Kurlianchik
Well,
gets.
that's the thing. Actually, my husband and I were laughing about this. Like, we went to Albina for our anniversary, and it's like, okay, we've covered the pricey ones.
Now, wait. When
Why
you
don't
went to
we?
Albina, though,
Yeah.
did they give you free wine?
No.
So we went on like the first couple weeks, and they were testing out their wine program, and we got free wine.
Well, pardon me, Nick Drinks.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
budget-friendly dining right
That's
here.
really cool.
Is this like the secret menu at
No.
In-N-Out Burger? You just have to know what to ask for?
Animal wine.
We bought the wine pairing. Silly us. Yeah, I don't know. But so we said, okay, now let's go do the budgety ones. So the Classic, which is a restaurant that's been in business for, I believe it's at least a decade, went to Bert's in Eastern Market, which is a super great choice. And Bert Deering, who owns it, and he's like a 6th generation entrepreneur. We go there on a lot of our Feet on the Street tours groups, but he started his first place in 1968. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing. The current location there in Eastern Market on Russell Street, 32 years. It's a 30,000 square foot complex. So really, to call it a restaurant, that's just a tiny part of it. He's got a museum in there and
The event space. Yeah.
And live jazz, 7 nights a week. So I thought that was just a superb choice. Restaurant of the year this year went to Ema, who opened up their Madison Heights location this year, and the original's in Corktown. Chef Mike Ransom does an amazing job. That's your noodle and rice bowls and Japanese, and also budget friendly, which is nice. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And what's nice is the other one's basically in like a strip mall complex.
Yeah.
So you can go to Target, you can go to Joann's, and then you're like, I'm gonna go get some great noodles.
Exactly. Get a ramen bowl. That's outstanding. Restaurant of the year. So I like it. Yeah. So yeah, you have some homework, Seth.
Yeah, I guess so.
Go do
I'll
it.
get on it.
Okay. So, Nick, I would love to hear your recommendations for food and drink.
Yeah, so there's definitely some great places on here. Not all of them have cocktails.
Right.
Definitely Marrow and She-Wolf do some great cocktails. But a couple that I want to point out is I think Fort Street Gallery does incredible cocktail work. They actually stole away Marlo Johnson from Candy Bar, and he kind of based that program. So he's doing really, really neat stuff. One of the things is actually a kegged cocktail that is low ABV, so low alcohol, but then you can jazz it up with another spirit. So they say, hey, if you want to keep it low alcohol, so it might be like vermouth based or something, or you can add rum to it and make it a full strength cocktail.
Oh, wow.
Which I love. Low cocktails are great.
Agreed.
Because then you can drink more.
Right.
And you can try different flavors.
Yeah.
So I love what Fort Street Gallery is doing. He mentioned San Morello. In the back is Evening Bar. Chaz Williams, who trained in Oakland. So he's bringing his expertise there and doing a really great program. When I came in, the first thing he said is, look up. That ceiling is gold leaf. Like, talk about like Jurassic Park, no expenses were spared. I mean, this is such a cool location. They're doing neat things there. Last one I want to talk about is Izakaya Katsu. Now, I heard this is kind of a chain, but when you go into it and you do eat there, it doesn't feel like a chain.
And that's the one in Woodbridge.
In Woodbridge, yeah. So it's this is like a bar food, Japanese bar food. Their sake program is very, very deep. They have sochu cocktails. They have beer. They don't have wine, which is a little bit of a bummer, but very extensive menu. I can see them paring back that menu because it's like 9 pages.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, so they'll edit it probably as they see what people like.
They will see. And then, Tara is on just opened Library Bar in the Detroit Club.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very cute space. She went with a very ambitious cocktail program. I think she might pare that back a little bit because some of them take a little too long to make, but she's definitely pushing the bounds and trying to make some really cool things.
That's super cool. Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures of just the real
porthole.
elaborate. Yeah.
Yep. So that was actually something that came out of Chicago at Linnea's Bar, which is...
Bird or...
There is a bird cocktail in there, yeah. I don't know, I don't remember the names, but yeah, that porthole, that vessel is actually a Chicago design.
Right.
Yeah.
Alinea, I know because I've actually interviewed Grant Achatz,
Yep.
who
sure.
is an amazing chef for a while back
Long
in a
time.
long time,
Aviary.
a different podcast.
Aviary.
Aviary.
It has something
Yep.
to do with birds.
Yeah.
yes.
So
Yeah. So good. Well. So how do you think? What do you think about this? I guess I'd call it a trend, or I don't know, a new thing. Well, CBD oil infused beverages.
So I haven't had them yet. I want to say Ale Mary's was the first. Well, there was one other place outside of Ale Mary's. I know Ale Mary's got a lot of press when they did it.
Yeah.
You had called out a couple other here that are starting to do it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I maybe I'm too much of a purist that want to just kind of keep my alcohol. I might be old school on this thinking. I feel like this is definitely going to take off and be something that maybe more millennial type liars
well, I
might
think
like.
there's sort of a wellness aspect to it of, this is the hemp derived oil.
When they
So
put
it's
that
not-
in, is it about flavor? Is it about
No, it's really about the benefits. It's shown to reduce pain, anxiety, things like health concerns. So, for instance, like a downtown Detroit falafel shop called Chickpea, they're
Yep.
putting it in their smoothies just as you would add bee pollen or protein powder or chia seeds.
But doesn't my cocktail already have things in it to do all that? I'm feeling pretty
Well, it's
relaxed
just
after I've had them.
Yeah, it's just another element. That's why I asked. Like, I don't know how. This really only became legal in January.
It's still very, very new. There
Very new.
was a vodka company called C Vodka that was doing a hemp infused vodka. I don't know if it was like a gray zone as far as legality, but that actually
sure.
came out a couple years ago, and we did a process on air. We did some cocktails on air with that.
Okay.
But it's a thing. I mean, there's definitely canned cocktails that are doing it already right now. So.
Yeah, so Bobcat Bonnie's has added 4 flavors of this stuff called Sprig Soda. So Sprig Soda is already CBD oil infused, and then you can make cocktails out of it as a mixer. So we'll see. I'd try it, but I think it's hard to know what effect,
And as we get the rollout for legal marijuana, I believe the law is we can't actually infuse proper marijuana into cocktails.
Okay.
And that was done by Snyder last year.
Oh,
so
right.
maybe this is the teaser, and maybe as things change federally, that'll move, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be a YouTube video on your website soon that'll show me how to do it at home?
We are looking at interviewing some people on Herd Podcast for actually CBD, but
Okay.
I don't know if I'm ready to tackle that yet.
Yeah.
You just don't want the evidence.
It's in development.
I do have a day job. I don't need to be tested.
Right, there you go. So I wanted to tell you about an opening that I was kind of excited about. So Gathering Coffee Company is a new place that is shooting to open this summer in Detroit's North End neighborhood. You know how I love these collaborations, basically. So it's in the space that the film studios for Eightfold Collective are. So there's going to be a community dark room, so anyone can come in and develop film in there. They're going to have portraits on display. So it's really like a community space that integrates art and coffee, also tea and other things. And they're going to have a small, like, pay what you can menu, which is kind of cool. I think really accessible to the community. So
If you've never developed film, do it at least once.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and the
really
smells will
art.
stick with you.
That's true.
All right, coming up, there's 3 new plays that are opening around town, and we will tell you about them.
Welcome to the D.
Brave.
D.
Brave.
Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak has been a fixture in the Metro Detroit area for 4 decades now.
It's amazing.
Hasn't always been there. Like, it's moved a couple places, and it obviously started small, but it has been around forever. I mean, this is talking through the stand-up comedy boom of the 1980s, through whatever, has gone, economic downturn and back, and all of that. He's been there. He's watched some amazing comedians come through, including Mike Binder, the, director and film writer, screenwriter.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and did you know he started?
No.
He started doing stand-up comedy.
That's cool.
With Mark Ridley, way back in the day. So it's absolutely amazing. Louis Anderson just came through and did a special 40th anniversary special for him, a bunch of shows. And that's a big deal to have a comedian of that stature come through.
In that room, yeah,
and it
that's
shows you
cool.
how important that place has really been. I mean,
And it's intimate. If you've been there,
Yes.
it's not a huge stage, so you feel like you're really part of that experience.
it's a great comedy club. And I will say this, it is really well run. And I didn't realize that until I did stand-up comedy, dabbled in it a little bit and
And went
started
to
going
other
to
places.
other rooms. And I was like, you take it for granted.
He
But
sets a standard.
that team over there, they know exactly what they're doing.
Well, I know some of the comedians we've had on, like Dave Landau and whatnot. They say when they move to New York, LA, like everybody knows Comedy Castle.
Yeah,
He's
everywhere.
just like the godfather of Comedy Castle.
And a lot of comedians around the country will come when they want to test material that they want to see how it will do in the Midwest. If you're a New York comic or an LA comic or a big city, coastal elite comic, you want to come and see how your stuff plays, you'll come to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle to sort of see how it's played. And there have been some big comedy specials that have been actually filmed there or taped there over the years.
So it's like the Ohio primary of comedy castles.
It is like the Ohio
or Iowa.
I love it.
Yes.
See
So-
how those folks will take it.
I sat down and talked to Mark Ridley. This is not the first time that I've actually interviewed him. We interviewed him, Mike Jeter, another comedian who started this podcast with me. We interviewed him for a different podcast that we had done. And he's just super cool, down to earth, like nice guy. Like not what you think of when you think of comedy club owner. Just great guy, really approachable, really easy to talk to. So I sat down and talked to him. I talked to him about one of the big comedians who came out of the Comedy Castle, and that is Tim Allen, who's from the area. This is, Home Improvement, Tim Taylor.
Yeah.
Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story. He's got the show Last Man Standing. So I asked him about Tim Allen's first time on stage, and here's what he told me.
Well, his very first night, he came right from work. He was working at the Sportsman in downtown Birmingham selling clothes, so he was still dressed in his sport jacket, shirt and tie. But Tim did very, very well, and the story goes that he went over to the far end of the room and pried up a little tile, one of the floor tiles, and wrote down his first appearance ever on stage doing stand-up. And to this day, he still has that tile in his office. And we went out and used to go a lot and have coffee across the street at the restaurant. And he said, I got to tell you guys something. My real name is not Tim Allen, it's Tim Dick. And we said, okay, fine. He goes, and I'm going to prison. So that was the night that I found out that he was going to go away to prison for a couple of years. Well, he didn't actually know how long he was going to go away, but he was gone for about 2.5 years. And when he went away, we had a big party, I remember, and then he used to call me collect once a month just to see how things were going in the Detroit comedy scene.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot about that.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, he did
yeah.
time. So it's always weird when you think of a big celebrity who did time back in the day.
know.
But it was drugs, I think. It was
I
weed
think
or
so.
stealing or something like that. So
Yeah.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
yeah.
Some drug
So,
charges.
he is not the only big name to have come through Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Dave Coulier, who, does A Million Voices and was Joey Gladstone on Full House back in the day and is now
Cut
Joey
it out.
Gladstone. Right, exactly.
Yes.
Yes, on Fuller House now. He also hosted America's Funniest Home Videos and did all this other stuff. Well, he came through Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. In fact, in the early days, like Tim Allen did okay, but he said the real star was Dave Coulier because, he had started when he was in high school. And so he had just really refined this and was a seasoned pro by the time, And so I asked him a little bit about the trip that Mark Ridley and Dave Coulier took out to L.A. to start Dave's career when he first moved out to Los Angeles. Here's what he told me about it.
We actually went out together. I used to stay with my ex-sister-in-law in Redondo Beach, and he lined up, I think his first month or two he was there, he stayed at a dormitory at UCLA campus until he found an apartment. And he did so well that within his first year, he was signed to be the co-star of a show that was coming out, which co-starred Tom Hanks, and then eventually they replaced Dave with Peter Scolari, Bosom Buddies. But Dave was on the docket to become the co-star of Bosom Buddies, and they decided he looked too young, and they replaced him with Peter Scolari.
Bet you didn't know that.
I didn't. I love that show, Bosom Buddies. Oh, that's funny.
I think you also buried the lead. I mean, he was the voice of Peter Venkman on The Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the cartoon. You remember
that
that?
blew my mind. I didn't
Yep,
know that
he
was him.
He was. He does a lot of voiceover work. Yeah, he's
has
always
a great
done that.
voice.
He's great at impressions.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Now, Nick, didn't you see him do stand
Yeah,
up?
so I saw him at the Comedy Castle probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it was funny because I thought it was a big deal, and I'm like, I'm going to buy him a drink. And so
yeah.
I go up to the bartender. I'm like, can I buy you a drink? And he's just like, Dave Coulier doesn't drink. You can buy him a bottle of water. So we bought him a bottle of water. I have no idea if he got it or not, but there was $2 well spent.
Oh, yeah.
He's a hometown hero. Look, Mark Ridley's sons, he's got 2 of them, are also in the business. And they've gone on to work, and they've done some stuff that you may have heard of as well. I asked him to tell me what his sons are up to.
Both my sons moved to Chicago a few years ago, and one went to Columbia, the School of Fine Arts here in Chicago, for about a year. And they did stand-up, and they wrote, and they met people, and then they both moved to Los Angeles. And the older one, Ryan, he started doing something called Channel 101, which is you make a film, and then you show it at a little theater once a month, and that's where he met Dan Harmon, who became the creator of Community, and then, of course, Rick and Morty. So Ryan became a writer and executive producer on Rick and Morty, won an Emmy for that, and now he's working with Robert Kirkman, and they're writing a film based on Kirkman's idea. Kirkman created the comic book The Walking Dead, but he has several other films. And Adam worked for 3 seasons on Netflix for a production company producing and directing Last Chance U. He worked on the Foo Fighters documentary, Billy Joel documentary, traveled with Kevin Hart to Europe, filming and producing his documentary that they're doing. So they're both keeping very busy in the industry.
That's sweet.
It is.
Yeah.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No, they learned a lot, apparently. Yeah. That's cool.
That's cool. I'm a huge Community fan. I love that
That's a great
show.
Yeah.
Oh, Rick and Morty is great.
Yeah,
Wubba lub dub dub. Wubba lubba dub dub.
So it's got a Detroit connection.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's
you knew
great.
that. So, well, look, if you want to hear that entire conversation, because there's a lot more to it, you can find it in our mobile app. I sat down for quite a while with Mark Ridley to talk to him about everything that he's seen over the past 40 years of doing it. And if you haven't been to that club in a while, you're right. It really is an amazing, intimate club. It's a great experience. It's a great way to just go out and stand-up comedy. It's fine to see it on Netflix. They're putting out all those specials and everything, but it's a great live art form.
Yeah, it's so fun to see different audience members' reaction and to just hear the laughs and the expressions on people's faces. And yeah, it's just like going to a live concert. It's way different than seeing on TV.
And we talked about Dave Landau, who we've had on the show recently, and Brad Wenzel, who we've talked about a little bit, and Jeff Horst and a bunch of others. So you can go listen to that whole interview. Like I said, it is in the mobile app, and go check out the club if you haven't seen it in a while.
Keep up with us.
The D.
Download our mobile app.
The D3.
Let's talk about some of the things that are happening on stages around town, starting with 3 plays that are opening up. One of them is The Play That Goes Wrong. This is running the 12th through the 24th at Fisher Theater. It is a murder mystery set at the opening night of a play called The Murder at Haversham Manor. And it's a comedy. It's supposed to be very, very funny, but I think it's one of these plays within a plays kind of thing, and people die and all that. You're going to go see this, right, Becky?
I am, yeah. And I think the 19th, some friends invited us. So
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
There's another one that's opening up. The Spitfire Grill is going to be at the Meadowbrook Theater in Rochester. This is about a girl who was paroled and then heads to a small, depressed Wisconsin town. It's actually based on the 1996 film by Lee David Zlotoff. Here's a little bit of trivia for you. That dude is the creator of MacGyver.
Well, I'll be.
Nice.
So I don't know if she's going to take out some tweezers and toothpicks and build a nuclear weapon in this film. But
Rubber band and
Maybe,
bubble gum.
maybe
yes.
so, because it sounds a little
dark.
Dark, yeah.
And then here's one. Have either of you actually seen Death of a Salesman as a play?
No, I've read it.
I haven't even read it.
You haven't read it? I had to read this in school.
Yeah,
It wasn't
English
required.
Class.
Yeah.
Really? I had to read it, and
Yeah.
it's held in such high regard. I mean,
Definitely.
it won the Pulitzer
Classic.
in 1949. It won the Tony Award for Best Play. I mean, this is the one about Willie Loman, of course, who's such an iconic character. But I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever seen it live.
Well, Ringwald would be a cool place to see it.
Yeah, so they're doing
small,
it over
intimate.
at the Ringwald in Ferndale. I wonder if they're going to get experimental with it, because that's kind of an experimental
You would think so.
theater. You'd think that they're
Yeah.
going to do something unusual
Twist.
with it. So that's opening up this weekend as well. Also, Friday, February 15th, we've talked about this a million times. The Secret Society of Twisted Storytellers is doing their monthly show at the Charles Wright. We just had Alex Trajano on, who hosts The Moth, and he talked about Satori Shakur.
Oh, starting off at the Moth event.
And now she
Yeah.
hosts this event. She's
awesome.
the woman behind the Twisted Storytellers. So you should go check it out. The theme this month is love and freedom. Friday, February 15th, you've also got comedian Mike Epps, who's going to be at the Fox Theater. He's from from Next Friday, for example, and Resident Evil Extinction. I know that's one of your favorites, Becky.
Yeah.
You should watch it
Classic.
3 times a day.
Always.
This was interesting. Supposedly, he's going to be playing Richard Pryor in the movie Richard Pryor. Is It Something That I Said?
I mean, he's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, which has been, I guess, in production hell forever. I mean, Eddie Murphy was supposedly going to play that role at one point, but the rumor now is that Mike Epps is the one playing the role. Also, Saturday night, the ballerina Alessandra Ferri is going to be performing with the Michigan Opera Theater, as well as 7 other stars of the ballet world. This is a Valentine's Day thing that's happening a couple days after Valentine's Day. The performance is called The Art of Pas de Deux. Did I pronounce that right?
Pas de deux.
Pas de deux. I studied Spanish, man.
Pas de deux.
Dwa. I wonder what dwa
I
is.
don't know.
I don't know.
Different thing.
The Art of Pas de Deux. No, it's just deux, trois. Yeah.
Just move on.
Never mind. Anyway, Pas de Deux. Pas de Deux? This is like a...
We're not saving you anymore. So it's a duet.
It's a dance duet in which 2 dancers...
It's a duet.
usually a male and a female, perform ballet steps together. You've seen this in like
it's
Swan
beautiful,
Lake or
yes.
Beauty and the Beast, things like that. So that's happening on Saturday night. And then the other thing that's happening over in Windsor is The Price is Right.
Yeah. So I'm getting tickets to go watch The Price is Right live at the Coliseum, and I am super excited about it.
Are you a big game show fan?
Yeah.
Oh,
which is leading up to Double Dare that's coming to the Fox later this year, and I signed up to be a contestant.
Ooh.
Yes.
Are you
Very
prepared
cool.
to come on down if it comes to that?
100%.
Yeah, he's hoping for that. Very cool.
Awesome. All right, we're going to do rapid recommendations next.
The D. The D. 3.
Detroit.
Becky, any news stories that caught your attention this week?
Totally. And it made me think about various restaurants that I go to eat at. You know, I don't know how you guys feel. How much do you trust, like, what's behind the kitchen door, you know, and what goes on?
Don't pull back that curtain, because I don't sometimes.
You prefer not to
I would
know.
prefer. I'm going to take off the headphones.
Okay. You might not want to hear my story. How about you, Seth? I know. Well, the funny thing is that we talked about, like, restrooms. And if you go
They're
to
not cooking in there,
no,
are
no,
they?
no. But if you kind of can judge, well,
Wait,
stay tuned.
Very avant-garde, yes.
But you sort of judge a place, and you thought that might be weird that you judge a place by a restaurant.
No, I totally
but-
totally judge a restaurant by its restaurant.
And I don't think that's weird at all.
No.
No, if you
Yeah.
can't keep a restroom clean, how can you keep a kitchen clean?
See? Agreed. So, a former Detroit health inspector now has a photography exhibit at the Scarab Club. And guess what the pictures are? They are scenes from when she was a health inspector of violations in various Metro Detroit restaurants.
It's like Gordon Ramsay comes to life.
Exactly.
I don't need this. This is like nightmare fuel.
I know it's kind of cringy, but I think important too, and brings out the question of what's art as well. But so this exhibit's been up at the Scarab Club since.
Is that the excuse the chefs give? Well, it's dirty, but it's art.
No, but they might now. No. So it's been up since January, but I wanted to tell you about it because it ends this weekend. So get out there if you can. It ends on Saturday the 16th. So Agnes Gira is she's retired now. She retired in 2015, but she was a city health department inspector for 25 years. So, of course, had a big backlog of all kinds of things going on. And while she was working for the city, she was also in the process of getting her Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree from Wayne State. She received that in 2004 with a minor in food science. And one of her professors, Marilyn Zimmerman, she saw these pictures. She was kind of enthralled and fascinated by it. It was like, you need to take this further. And so she gave her a lot of skills in terms of photography, you know, how she could shoot these better, gave her different camera techniques and said, you know, you're going to want to show these someday. There's something to it. It's kind of like street photography meets, you know, that mystery factor. So it's called The Other Dirty Show. Because, you know, also the Dirty Show at the Russell Industrial Center with the erotic art is going on. So this is the other Dirty Show that shows, peel back the curtain, what goes on in the kitchens, the restrooms, the alleyways. So here's just some examples of the pictures, okay?
La, 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 la.
Yeah. All right, go.
Yes,
Yeah.
close your ears if you don't want to know. She has a picture of a bathroom of a restaurant that had a cooler full of pies directly next to the toilet.
Like fruit pies.
Pies. Yep.
Did Mark Kurlianchik check this list before he made his list of the best restaurants
I would
in town?
hope so. I would hope so. There were pictures of like a big cart full of freshly made food next to the dirty mop bucket. There is a can of Raid next to celery being chopped on a cutting board. The grossest one, she had a few images that you can see online. An alleyway behind the restaurant full of pizza dough.
Ugh,
Just like tossed out the door, crawling with rats.
gross.
No locations are revealed, which is kind of crazy.
Well, no, I think that's good because I'm wondering, would there be like a rights issue
I'm sure.
or like a
Libel or
libel? Thank you.
Libel.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, some could be very well have closed down or they could have completely cleaned up.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Agnes is now showing these pictures at the Scarab Club. And she's not making any money of this. Like all the proceeds of any sales go to the Scarab Club.
So if you're going to go see this exhibit, do you eat before or after you go?
You got to eat before.
That's better?
'Cause you're not
'Cause
gonna
then you-
want-
But then you have something you can...
Oh, yeah. I could. Yeah.
But if after, then you might not want... Oh, that's a tough one.
I don't think you would go.
I don't think you eat ever again.
I think you just don't eat.
Liquid
Diet.
diet. Liquid diet. Go to a
Smoothies,
bar.
CBD oil.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the D.
Brave.
All right, Nick, there it is, your second show. Thank you so much. You've been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Can I go home now?
No, you must bring us more drinks.
Yes, only if it's to get
we
more
have
cocktails for
17
us.
servings of the Game of Thrones.
Right.
The Night's, what's it called? The Night's Watch.
Yes.
We need to finish that.
All right, before we get out of here, you've got one more thing that you've got to do. Are you ready?
Sure.
We are going to ask you for a series of rapid fire recommendations.
Oh, no.
Just tell us the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh, gosh, I'm getting in trouble.
All right, your specialty is obviously cocktails, but I got to ask because there are so many great beers that come from Michigan. Do you have a favorite Michigan beer?
Oh, boy. You know what? If it's not a style, it's a place, and it's Batch. Because Batch Brewing has all sorts of cool stuff, and it always changes, so I can go there, and whatever I order is probably pretty good.
All right, good choice.
Where's the first place you take out of town visitors?
Oh, I feel like Selden is normally a slam dunk, and chances are pretty good you can get a table. So I have good luck there, and has a great atmosphere downtown. Yeah.
What about a great Detroit dive bar?
Dive bar. Keep. Because Keep has the upstairs and the downstairs. Plus, it's a great industry hangout, so you can probably get some good industry stories as well.
Nice.
If you could have lunch, let's just change it. If you could have a cocktail with any Detroiter, dead or alive, that you haven't met yet, who would it be?
Oh, boy. Any Detroiter, dead or alive. Oh, so tough, so tough, so tough. Who am I thinking of? This is going to be a weird one. Kid Rock.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of his at all, but I feel like from a marketing perspective, he has done some crazy things. Like you look at the Congress thing, which I don't agree with at all, was kind of brilliant. So
You want to know what makes him tick?
I want to know what makes him tick, and I guess we go to his restaurant in LCA.
Can I tell you something? I think Kid Rock could drink you under the table.
I'm sure he could. Yeah.
Name a Detroit bartender that we should all follow on Instagram.
Detroit bartender you should all follow on Instagram. Oh, there's so many good ones. This is going to get me in trouble.
Top three.
Top three. Yanni, definitely from Bad Luck, has some amazing photos. Mark from Writing Company also does some great work. And let's try not to get someone else outside of Detroit Optimist group.
Look at him playing politics.
I'm trying so hard. Chaz Williams from Evening Bar.
Nice.
Okay.
There's betters out there, but you put me on the spot.
That's okay. We've full disclaimer on that.
Right.
What's your favorite moment in Detroit history?
Oh, right now. And the reason why is because, since I'm such a big cocktail fan, it keeps getting better every year. So, when I first started all this stuff, it was really hard to get that stuff, and now it's everywhere. And when I go on, I was on the Vine Pair, they're a New York podcast, and they're just like, why is Detroit blowing up? I'm like, because our cocktails are awesome. We're killing it right now.
All right. Well, look, thank you so much, Nick Britsky. The man behind the website, nickdrinks.com. If you're into cocktails, if you're into mixology, go check it out. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. What can people look for that's coming up on the website?
Yes, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but the Game of Thrones whiskey tasting video series that we're doing. So starting February 25th, you can find it on youtube.com/nickdrinks. Will be 9 videos leading up to the premiere on April 14th. All the different whiskeys, each with a different person tasting. And then, of course, PJ's great comedy sketches that we're going to do as part of that.
Sounds like so much fun.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Also, thank you to Mark Ridley of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. Again, you can find that full interview in our mobile app. Plus, if you want links to everything that we talked about in this show, go to our website, thedebriefdetroit.com, sign up for the email list, and we've got everything right there for you.
Or you can just text the word Detroit to 444-999.
And we've got Carmen Harlan coming up in our next episode, which will be out on Friday. Until then, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.